The word Thelema is transliterated from the ancient Greek noun will. Its meanings include purpose, wish, want, and desire. In early Christianity, Thelema often referred to not just one's, but more so to the divine or God's will. And an example is "Thy will be done" in the Lord's Prayer, alluding to Holy Will. Modern Thelema. Founded in 1904, Thelema is a system for spiritual attainment. It incorporates mystical, magical, and religious methods. Also regarded as spiritual philosophy, Thelema was brought into being by Aleister Crowley. In that manner, Crowley's works are the only canonical, and according to most, Thelema is a vow. Before getting into that, this post is part of series on Thelema's basics. It focuses on its origins, pantheon, and principles. The second part deals with its concepts and law of conduct, so consider subscribing if you find the content valuable and entertaining. Aleister Crowley. Also known as Perturabo, the Great Beast 666, the Master Tyrion, etc., Aleister Crowley was quite a Renaissance person. His crafts included ceremonial magic, writing, poetry, mysticism, yoga, mountaineering, and even painting in his early life. Crowley was initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, but later gave up on magic, becoming a yogi. Eventually things changed, and during his honeymoon in Cairo, Egypt, with his wife Rose Crowley, Crowley experienced a synchronicity leading to a chain of events which culminated in the Book of the Wow's dictation. The Book of the Wow. Also called Liber Vel Au Legis, the Book of the Wow is Thelema's central text, though others are also considered holy books of Thelema. While its interpretation is prohibited, Crowley encourages individuals to find their own meaning, which applies to most things Thelema. The Book of the Wow was received by Crowley through the prescriptions of an outer-worldly, non-corporeal being, called Aiwass, that is Crowley's holy guardian angel, personal daemon, etc. Aiwass. In the Book of the Wow, Aiwass presents himself as the earth-ruling forces minister and speaker. Through this communication, Crowley claimed he brought a new age in which he played a crucial role as the prophet, and this new age is the Aeon of Horus. Aeonics and Magickal Formulae. Thelema recognizes three aeons, i.e. stages in humanity's development. This is based on the race's understanding of itself, the universe, and its place. The technical term for deities swapping places and thus eons changing is God's equinox. Dark Ages. Crowley calls a new eon's beginning its Dark Ages due to paradigms clashing and structures falling apart. On the contrary, a new eon taking off doesn't necessarily mean a new god comes and punishes the former. It marks a more recent evolutionary stage of human consciousness, and that's both collectively and individually. The Aeon of Isis. Overlapping with the Age of Leo, the Aeon of Isis was the first stage associated with matriarchy. Its formula was that Earth is a mother and wife-giver associated with the great goddess. Its core mystery was women's period and pregnancy corresponding to the moon phases. The Aeon of Osiris. Identifying with Pisces and patriarchy, the Osiris era was when farming developed. After recognizing the sun's crucial role, humans started likening it to the male semen. Yet, rather than seeing creation as a collaboration between male and female, they viewed the divine as an abusive father figure, dying every day when the sun went beyond the horizon. This is how Yao, the dying god's formula, was born. And while that's discussed in my Rose Cross video, a big part of it was sacrificing and submitting oneself to the male god, usually through denying one's flesh. The Aeon of Horus. Starting with the Book of the Wow's dictation, the Aeon of Horus reconciles and transcends the two previous. It is symbolized by the crowned and conquering child, striving for self-sufficiency, as the child represents everlasting growth. Evidence of the Aeon of Horus includes destroying the patriarchal rule of European kings and the illusion of church's ubiquitous power. Also, women having equal rights in many places. Unlike before, now the individual is society's most basic monad. On the other hand, the Book of the Wow clarifies that the child also represents humanity's substantial immaturity, resulting in various political conflicts and totalitarianism. Quote, consider the outcrop of dictatorship only possible when moral growth is in its earliest stages, and prevalence of infantile cults like communism, fascism, pacifism, occultism in nearly all its forms, religious sentimentalized to the point of practical extinction. Consider war, the atrocities which occur daily and leave us unmoved and hardly worried. We are children. Unquote. Comment. Juxtaposing parts of In Search of Being and In Search of the Miraculous with the last, one may find commonalities between what Crowley calls a child and what Gurdjieff defines as a machine. Namely, when Gurdjieff points out to Ouspensky how by large people remain unmoved by the horrors of war. Let me know if you agree. Thelemic Pantheon. Purely symbolic or not, Thelema incorporates a few deities, adopted from ancient Egypt. The main ones speak in the Book of the Law, each having a dedicated chapter. The Stele of Revealing. Discovered in 1858 by François Auguste Ferdinand, the funerary stele of the prophet of Alpha is a wooden stele on which Rose Crowley recognizes Horus, and that is with surprising accuracy considering her non-existent interest in religion. After getting the hieroglyphs translation, Crowley named the deities Nuit, Hadit and Rahurquit, hence the speakers in the Book of the Law, and at some point Crowley also claimed himself an Alpha reincarnation. Egyptian deities. Although it may seem so, Thelema isn't an Egyptian religion's extension. It employs Egyptian deities for what Crowley calls literally convenience, and the reason is that they perfectly convey Thelema's main principles. Main principles. The Book of the Law claims it explains the universe, particularly the two principles or elements emanating reality. The first is space and matter, including nature and its possibilities totality. The second is the personified identity, the point or viewpoint experiencing those possibilities. While these principles are represented by Nuit and Hadit, elsewhere Crowley recognizes Shiva and Shakti as also suitable, and as Cover stress, maps are not the territory. Often, different ones depict the same. Nuit and Hadit. Originally, Nuit is the Egyptian star goddess Nut. Based on my research, Crowley actually named Hadit regarding him as the Sky Lord. Being masculine, Hadit is the pure will and desire to live and express oneself, causing changes. Hadit means he goes, and this alludes to him being the primordial initiator of all events, also to him being manifested as the life force Kia. On the other hand, Nuit is feminine. She constrains, providing conditions, context and environment for Hadit's events. She also unravels new possibilities and is the surrounding external, the number 0, alluding to the female genitals. Chokmah and Binah. Chokmah and Binah house Nuit's and Hadit's lower manifestations, the Beast and Babylon. As mentioned in my video on the Sephiroth, Binah, the Neshama, turns Chokmah's activity into form. Everyone is a star. Thelema has two main prescriptions, found in the Book of the Laws chapter 2. The first is that every man and woman is a star. Returning to the notion of divine will, this conveys that each person's will is a whole extension of God's. More on that in a moment. Complete and self-sufficient, every human being uniquely expresses the divine. Said differently, the individual is an expression of the universal, containing within themselves the highest and purest divinity. God is not external. God is not external, but the deepest part of one's soul, which Thelema calls the cups or the star. According to the Book of the Law, that is an aggregate of experiences, constantly changing with each fresh event. Defined as interactions between Nuit and Hadit, these are one's life experiences happening consciously and unconsciously. Do what thou wilt. Thelema's second and more notorious prescription is found in the Book of the Law, chapter 3. This is do what thou wilt. Unlike what some think, this is not permission to do whatever you want. Quite the opposite. It actually teaches you finding your true will and sticking to it no matter what. While the true will often overlaps with activities and paths you feel innately driven to, these are usually stepping stones, stages, and parts or aspects of it. In plain terms, the true will is your ultimate life purpose or soul mission, which Thelema views as holy and divine. It's what you're here to do, a dynamic and changing sequence of experiences/events. It is unique and peculiar to each person, yet in harmony with the universe. Fortune. This can be found in the fortune card, where there's an apparent diversity of pentagrams, i.e. individuals in Nuit's body. While different, they are perfectly aligned with the cosmic order, and from this perspective, each star has its own orbit, symbolizing the true you. Each star is the center of gravity and light, and as you know from self-help, you're the most important person in your life. Fay Ce Que Voudras. The concept of do what thou wilt precedes Crowley. Influenced by the classic hypnerotomachia polyphily, the French Renaissance and Greek scholar François Rabelais invents a fictional abbey of Thelema. His Gargantua and Pantagruel novels encapsulate the motto Fay Ce Que Voudras, which means do what thou wilt. Besides informing Crowley's work significantly, Rabelais' Thelema also resurfaces in the utopian romance The Building of Thelema by Sir Walter Besant and James Rice. The Song of Your Wife. The true will is the underlying motive of the song which is your wife. The more you do it, the more you hear it. Finding it requires peeling back the personality layers and discovering who you are at your core, and then doing that and nothing else. And as Crowley says, you have no right but to do thy will, and apparently this is both liberating and quite restrictive. More on that by the end of the video. Love under will. This is where another crucial concept enters the picture, love under will. It describes when Nuit and Hadit's permanent interaction produces continuous growth aligned with one's true will. You can think of it as deliberately created and orchestrated events or experiences, promoting and facilitating that. Crowley calls magic love under will, as magic is one of the essential tools for accomplishing the former. Yoga is another, as addressed in part 2. Simply put, love under will expresses your most authentic self in the collective, and that is by connecting the deepest parts of your soul with the same ones of reality. Gradual Unfolding. The true will unfolds as you progress to self-knowledge and mastery, so it may be optimal to remember Dr. Martin Luther King's words, quote, "You don't have to see the whole staircase just to take the first step," unquote. Living Thelema. In his Living Thelema book, Thelemic scholar and Jungian psychologist David Shoemaker offers to view yourself as the priest or priestess of your religion, which is your true will. He adds that finding your true will is strictly individualized, and no two experiences are alike. Shoemaker remarks that awareness of the true will exponentially increases after obtaining knowledge and conversation of your AGA, which is Thelema's first and primary goal. The second is crossing the abyss, but that deserves a separate post. Quote, "The true will is the essence of yourself. It encompasses you, your actions, your thoughts, and your feelings, and it pertains to the way you live moment to moment, as well as the entire arc of your life itself, and even beyond one life into other incarnations. There's often, however, a great deal of overlap between the true will and what one chooses to spend their time doing in life, one's occupations or favorite hobbies. Much of the time, the discovery of the true will is a slow and gradual process, occasionally punctuated by breakthroughs of insight. The process is incredibly individualized, and no two seekers will experience its peaks and valleys in the same way." Unquote. Comment. Ikigai. The notion of the true will is not exclusively Western. Somewhat similar is the Japanese Ikigai. Ikigai translates as a reason for being. It expresses having a life purpose and being motivated. Ikigai is also the deep sense of fulfillment and accomplishment resulting from progressing with one's life purpose. It is also how one connects to the collective. And while they may vary, diagrams depict Ikigai as the epicenter or intersection of your skills, talents, passions, world's needs, inner calling, etc. And this sounds quite Thelemic. Let me know if you agree. The inertia of the universe. Crowley explains that the man who does his true will has the inertia of the universe to assist him. Marco Visconti clarifies that the true will is not conscious intent. Willpower. As covered, your ultimate life purpose permeates your being's entirety and even multiple incarnations. It is independent of the amount of willpower you can exert, which, as we know from modern science, is limited. Though choices and habits letting you follow it may require some self-control initially, the more you do, the less you need. On the contrary, the less love under will you practice, the more willpower you need to oppose reality. More on that in part 2. And this may be a good indication of finding whether something belongs to your true will. Let me know if you agree. Geburah. While the true will is not willpower, it's worth noting that as an expression of the universal, the individual will is attributed to Geburah, the sphere of Mars. This is also where the ideas behind willpower come from. That is sacrificing one option for another, for the greater good, as Geburah is the sacrificial priest. Given that, likely the most prominent willpower expert Kelly McGonigal defines willpower as much more than self-control. She views it as making us individuals in a society which, in my humble opinion, complements Crowley's stars in Nuit's body. I also think this makes sense, as following your true will implies defining yourself, setting boundaries, and making sometimes tough choices and thus sacrifices. It's being your own god, guru, coach, and person to rely on. Willpower is not your true will, yet understanding and utilizing it properly is nothing short of essential. You may actually find spending too much on stuff useless to your true will. Let me know if you agree and if you want a video on that. Quote, A man whose conscious will is at odds with his true will is wasting his strength. He cannot hope to influence his environment efficiently. A boy's instinct may tell him to go to sea while his parents insist on becoming a doctor. In such a case, he will be both unsuccessful and unhappy in medicine." Unquote. Genetic predisposition. Besides the covered metaphysical explication, Israel Regardie student, founder of Falcon Publishing, and Thelemic Golden Dawn co-founder Alan Ronald Miller, aka Christopher Hart, defines the true will as your genetic predisposition, and thus following it is developing and making the most out of your unique skills and talents. Self-discipline. Crowley recognizes self-discipline as the key to following one's true will. On the contrary, while requiring effort, some things will always feel natural and somewhat deeply sense-making while others won't. Considering Hart's definition, self-discipline also implies filtering and pursuing the things belonging to your true will, which may take some decision-making and thus willpower. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what is yours, such as your thoughts on this video. Otherwise, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel and my newsletter for more content. Consider checking my digital products, music and books. Support me with either of the links in the description and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.